Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
Even though it was in, a dome, you could just feel the intensity, from all the crowd, even if it was, Carolina guys watching, fans watching it, Virginia, like they just knew like this is like probably the game of the tournament. And, and it lived up to it. I mean, it was a lot of back and forth, guys making big shots after big shots.
That is Duke freshman point guard Chris Duhon recalling yet another legendary game from the 2001 season, the ACC tournament semifinal against Maryland. Welcome back to Return to Glory, the story of the 2001 Duke Blue Devil men's basketball national champions. I'm your host, Jason Evans. Throughout this series, we've heard from different heroes who helped the Blue Devils win key games. Players like Jay Williams, Carlos Boozer, Shane Battier, and even backup big men, Casey Sanders and Reggie Love. On this episode, a new hero steps forward, Nate James. As you may recall, when we last left the team, they had changed their style of play in the wake of Carlos Boozer's injury. Playing small and fast had allowed Duke to spank North Carolina in the regular season finale. That game sent the Blue Devils on to the ACC tournament and a semifinal matchup against the Maryland Terrapins. Duke had already played 2 memorable games with Maryland, and this third matchup would be no different. The game was a tight back-and-forth contest when Mike Dunleavy hit a pair of free throws with just 16 seconds remaining to give Duke a 3-point lead. For those final 16 seconds, Coach K pulled Dunleavy out of the game and inserted Nate James. James had been a starter for most of the season, but had moved to the bench late in the year as part of the transition to that smaller, faster lineup. Nate recalled to me being eager and ready to contribute from off the bench.
Well, once again, we're playing Maryland ACC semis, and I'm actually like on the bench. I'm just thinking to myself like, Coach put me in, I'm gonna make a play. Coach put me in, we're gonna win this game. I'm gonna make a play. All right. And I'm really, it's not one of them old head since I know what the outcome and what everything occurred and what I did. No, I really like, if Coach put me in, I'm gonna make a play happen. So he ends up, calling my number. And then that's one thing I try to tell the guys, hey, look, you're on the bench. If you're into the game, you're like, Coach, I'm ready. He'll just throw you out there sometimes. And he did that with me, trusted me and put me out there in a tough spot.
With Duke up 3, Maryland raced down court, and their point guard, Steve Blake, hit a 3-pointer to tie the score with less than 10 seconds remaining. Duke got the ball in the hands of star guard Jason Williams, and here's what happened next.
6 seconds, 5 seconds, Williams looks to finish. This one goes off. It's in there by Nate James with 1.3 to go. Up to Dixon, will he get it off?
Basketball, Nate James.
And I knew, Jason was going to get the ball and he was going to, set up a play where he's going to try to get to the rim. And I knew the entire defense would shift to him. And if he makes it, great. We're going to be, we're going to be up. And he drives, everything happens. They come over and he ends up, missing it. And, I was one of probably the leading offensive rebounder on the team that year. So running in, bet, no hesitation. I run in and, I get the tip. And in my mind, I'm like, got the tip. Everyone's going crazy. We're up. And I had a moment where I'm like, yes, I knew you put me in. I knew I was going to do something. And then that moment turned to, I better get my butt back. I got to get back. So I'm trying to sprint back. they throw it to the one guy that I knew was going to receive the ball, Juan Dixon. He gets it, he shoots the shot and damn near makes it and ruins the moment. But that tip, I thank God it didn't go in, and that tip was one of the great memories that I had, and helping us get to the championship where we faced Carolina that year. But just a moment where it's the ultimate be ready for the next play.
So you're battling a bunch of guys for that rebound. Are you really trying to tip it in? I mean, how much control is there that you have over a ball like that?
Yeah, I mean, I did it many times. It's just trying to tip it in. I never practiced the tip drill. But I always knew how to to crash and tip it, and that's something that I always had to do because I was hungry to score. We tell our guys all the time, like, man, you got to be hungry to make a play, and we were, and I was. So I think there's even a picture where I'm like moving hands out of the way and just somehow getting over there. It was a whole host of big guys, guys just big time athletes, and I somehow go over and make the play. But yeah, it's just the ultimate, just being in the moment and not thinking about anything but trying to win.
And by the way, you're obviously a big guy compared to me, but once you get in there under the boards,
Oh, you the trees, man. Those guys,
yeah,
big time.
Well, I mean, what's it like? What's the secret to rebounding amidst guys who are 4 or 5 inches taller than you?
Well, it helps when you get a run. That's one thing that at my size, 6'5.5", was a good, strong kid, good athlete. So with a run, I kind of had the advantage, and they're looking at the play, trying to stop Jason, trying to get a block, and usually you can't make two plays. You can't go for the block shot and get the rebound. So I knew that. So once they drove, the ball was in the air, and if it came off the rim right, I was going to get it, whether bringing it down and going back up with it or tipping it in, which I had to do, because of the time.
Chris Duhon, the guard who had replaced Nate James as a starter, said after Nate's game-winning tip, he was relieved because he never wanted to face Maryland again.
We come down and it's tied up again, and here comes Jay coming down, and he goes up and shoots it, and Nate's there at the right time in the right place, because now we go back with Booz being gone, we started playing smaller as well. So there were times we would bring in Reggie Love and Matt Christensen at times, but there was a lot of times where Shane was playing the 5, Mike was playing the 4, Nate was at the 3, I was playing the 2 J, so we were like really small. So but Nate there at the right time as always, never giving up on the play, tips it in. And then next thing, remember they get the ball out in the half court, and Juan Dixon shoots one from half court and like almost goes in. Like you could just hear the crowd just go, oh, and it was just like, you can see when they missed that shit, it's like, nah, like this can't happen to us again. Like that's like impossible. But kind of, and I know in my mind, I knew that was the ACC championship game right there. Like we already blew the doors off of Carolina at their place, and like our small lineup was really, really bad for the way that they wanted to play and how they matched up with us. So I knew matchup wise, we were going to take care of business with them. So beating them again, I was like, oh, finally, like we're done with these guys for the rest of the year. Like, like we don't have to see them again. Like I think that's in my head, like us beating them. Like I didn't think there was any other team in the country that we could beat. I thought Maryland was the second best team in the country, that year. So us being able to beat them, it was kind of like, for me, okay, we're gonna win this thing. Like, we stick to what we're doing. Like, I'm not afraid of any other team out there. Like, we're gonna win this.
Duhan was right about the ACC championship game. Duke would crush North Carolina for the second time in a week, winning the ACC title by a score of 79-53. But Duhan was wrong about Duke being done with Maryland. The two teams would face each other for a fourth time. But that's a story for another episode. So if you think that this episode of Return to Glory went by too quickly, I agree. My conversation with the 2001 Duke Blue Devil players was not just confined to chatting about the games. We talked about the other things that make a team function properly. Other things like practical jokes. Here's senior walk-on Ryan Caldbeck.
First of all, I think the idea that there were practical jokers is in and of itself the ultimate practical joke that someone else is playing, because they're trying to push blame to a small number of people. So whoever first said this on the podcast, that said that there was a small group of practical jokers, is trying to throw us under the bus to laugh about it later. Everyone played jokes. Everyone did. The starters, the walk-ons, everyone played jokes. And you just, I don't want to say you have to, because I'm sure that there are teams that are effective without doing it, but it's really darn hard to make it through, what feels at times like isolation from the outside world without some levity. Matt Christensen was my roommate 1 year, I think, 2000. And I came home one day, he had filled up my entire bathtub with, it was like a jelly. It was like some sort of like bizarre, I actually texted him about it and asked him what it was a few days ago, because I thought you were going to ask about this. And it's like some sort of weird jelly that he found. And so that took hours to get rid of. It was disgusting, frankly. The whole bathtub, it was like 2 feet deep. Dante was just religious about practical jokes, and he didn't seem to have much of a limit, as perhaps I wouldn't have had I been redshirted. And so there were often like little things that in retrospect aren't that funny, but at the time were pretty funny, like putting a bunch of traffic cones on the top of my car and kind of digging them in and just stuff like that.
So you just heard Ryan talk about Dante Jones, who was a redshirt transfer in 2001 and was ineligible for games. But Dante sat on the bench most of the time, and as Andy Borman told me, sitting next to him was a dangerous situation.
There are a couple things I remember. One of them was, and I alluded to the fact earlier, like Dante was a red shirt. So Dante wasn't playing. And during the games, it's our job to bring energy. And like, I remember it was my goal at all times on the bench to be as far away from Dante as humanly possible, because that man, he has grown man strength. And so like a high five from anyone else is a high five. A high five from him could break your hand. Like a bear hug from, him, like you'd feel it the next day. But the other thing, he used to throw dudes on the court, like during the game, like you should ask Duhan about it. You should ask Caldbeck about it. Like, he would grab, like after a big play, we score in front of our bucket right in front of the bench and we're running back on defense. Like, he'd pick you up and throw you on the court. And you're out there, scrambling, to get back to the bench. So yeah. And he thought it was hysterical. And I thought it was mortifying. So I would in the process of cheering for my teammates and trying to be a part of it, I would make sure that at all times I was out of arm's reach from Dante, because you're one big play away from getting thrown on the court.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, and you need to ask those guys, because like,
Oh, I will.
I know he got me a couple times, and I know he got called back a couple times. And there was even, I was joking with Duhan about it the other day. You know, there was some game, you'd have to ask Chris which game, but there was some game where like we were up, 30, and so Chris wasn't in the game. And I don't think Chris had any idea that Dante would do that. And like someone did something and Dante chucked Chris onto the court. But yeah, that was part of it. That was certainly, it was fun.
You heard Ryan suggest that I ask Chris Duhan about the danger of sitting next to Dante on the bench. Here's what Duhan told me about it. I was told I need to ask you about the danger of being next to Dante Jones on the bench.
Yeah, that's like a painful experience. Yeah, very painful. So with Dante, I mean, he is so into the games. So for me, I remember we were playing in New York, playing Temple, and it's late in the game. And, I'm on the sideline, I'm at the end of the bench with them, and, we hit a big bucket, and I, jump up, and I just feel this 2-hand pushes me like in my back, and I go sliding on the court. Like there's no timeout yet or anything like that. So I go sliding on the court, and I gotta get up, and he's just sitting there like laughing and like just having the grandest of times. Or the game will get close, and then he's the king of the shoulder bite. Like he gets behind you, and then he just bites the shit out the back of your shoulder for whatever reason. like get off me. It was like that was his thing, man. And we talk about guys that kept it light for us, but he was one of those guys just because of those type of things, that he did.
As you might imagine, I wanted Dante Jones's perspective on his sideline antics. He told me it was just his way of channeling his energy.
Yeah, we had some good fun over there, man, because like those guys are dressed, and I was just excited to be there, just to be part of something special, man. And I take pride in being a teammate, like cheering on my teammates if I'm playing or if I'm not. Like I'm engaged in the game at all points and times. And we had some great guys on our bench, so we had a great relationship, and we just kept that vibe going of giving energy to the guys that were playing. And then we got a little rough on the sides as well. I got my chance to take my energy out on them because they are little dirty little dudes. Just like to sneak in jabs, throw you on the floor, like try and get you in trouble, do stupid stuff like that because they were kids and they still are kids.
So wait, you would try and throw guys on the floor?
They started with me. They tried to throw me on the floor to get me in trouble, and then I'm stronger than them. So yes, I'd be the one to get called out.
I love it. Did you guys ever get in trouble?
Nah, we ain't get no trouble because Coach Cat had too much to go on and work through and pay attention to. But it was just little games that we were just playing on the side, man, just to keep us engaged.
The bench wasn't the only unsafe place for the 2001 Blue Devils. Again and again, I heard from the team about the perils of being on an elevator with your teammates. Casey Sanders picks up the story.
Dude, the practical jokes just didn't stop. I mean,
I need more. I need more. Come on.
I got more. Okay, so I'll give you a prime example. One of the things that JD also set precedent was this thing I didn't even know about until I got there called the ball tap. Now, this is so funny because when we're in practice and we're setting screens, it's something we almost naturally do, which is to, cup your balls and kind of get big, so you protect yourself and then get wide. Dude, I don't know how this started off, but all I know is as a freshman and sophomore, all I remember doing was every time I entered an elevator, it was like time to cup up, because if you were just standing there unaware, it could happen to you. And I mean, this is what breeds these stories about us being, not unsure of our sexuality. Has nothing to do that. I mean, just the pure panic of a kid who's left unguarded and he forgot, and then he gets this ball tap. We all just thought it was so funny.
Back to Chris Duhon now. As I mentioned, he was a freshman and was new to the team. He told me he learned very quickly that being on the elevator was a dangerous place.
So that had to start before I got there because, I mean, it was just a known thing. And, I didn't know. I'm trying to say, did he get me? I don't think he got me. But I saw it like the first time we got on the elevator. And then, like, I was wondering, like, everybody would get on the elevator and immediately everybody just holds their crotch. Like, all of a sudden, like, so I'm like, what's going on? But then now it just kind of became this, it was this game. Like, anybody that wasn't, it was, and I mean, it didn't matter who else was on the elevator. It could be this 80-year-old woman we're in the hotel and she's just going up to her room, and we just so happen to be in there, and and Shane will let you know, and he's looking, and he's gonna hit you. And then it was Dre Buck was doing it, and Borman, like, so it was kind of, I guess, ended up becoming our thing. I didn't know he invented it, so I was I was late to the party, but I learned very quickly. I kind of saw what was going around, so I was just like making sure I was not a victim, or a victim of the nut punch for sure.
How would you even push the button for your floor if you got to be on the lookout?
So usually a manager would be on there, but the thing is, like, the managers weren't off limits either. So like, so they knew about it as well. So it was kind of one of those one hand type of things, or you know what? Hey, we just gotta sit in the elevator until someone's brave enough to press the button. Basically. So usually the guy that goes in first has the opportunity to do it. But I think if we're on the road, sometimes we're not all on the same floor. So you would just take that chance, even if you have to go all the way back down and then have to come all the way back up. I try to not get in the crowded elevators. Like, I'll wait for the next one. I'm not in a rush to get to my room, so I'll be all right.
Several players revealed to me that senior All-American Shane Battier, one of the greatest team leaders in NCAA history, was the master of these elevator antics. Here's Matt Christensen.
As in all other things, Shane had veteran tricks that he could bring to bear in any game. So when we would get on elevators, everybody would cover up their genitals, because if you didn't, Shane would find a way to gently or not so gently give you a little tap. not enough to put someone on the floor, but definitely a pain in your stomach. In the weird world of college basketball, I guess, passed as some version of fun. But yeah, that always a little weird when somebody else would get on the elevator with us, and you're wondering, does the presence of a stranger mean that the game is off? And in general, I think everybody's assumption was no. So there are a few dozen people in the world who probably wondered, do they always stand like this, or like why are all these men standing here in some kind of defensive posture? I would imagine plenty of people wondered what was going on.
And Jay Williams agreed. Being on the elevator with Shane was scary.
Who does ball taps? Who ball taps? This team, apparently. Like, and they weren't always ball taps. I mean, people got hit in the balls with closed fist. It wasn't a tap. It was I'm like, who's doing that? Stop. I used to get so angry at it. But like, guys always did it. It was just what dudes did.
Who was the master? Who was the best at it? I heard Shane. I heard Shane Battier was the master of the ball
Shane
tap.
was pretty good at it because Shane would try to lure you in. Like Shane would try to like talk to you or like make conversation going into the elevator or like get you to look at something. Like Shane like always like mastermind plotting on how to ball tap you. Shane Battier, the leader of our fearless team, the guy who was like the ultimate winner, the hero, was the infamous ball tapper.
Okay, before we wrap up this episode, there is one more story to tell. Everyone on the team said the biggest prankster on the 2001 Blue Devils was reserve guard Andre Buckner. You may recall on an earlier episode of Return to Glory that Dre Buck was the guy who loved to sing about bagels in the shower. Well, he told me about a prank war he got into that really went to another level. Here's Dre Buck on how he ruined his teammate's hotel room.
Oh my God! All right, so yeah, I admit I'm the jokester. I'm the jokester, the practical jokester of the group. One particular incident this season, Ryan Callback and I we were roomies on the road. So I can't remember whose room we snuck into, but this is embarrassing. But man, I took a massive dump in a trash can.
Oh no, you
covered it
didn't.
up with covered it up with toilet tissue and all kinds of stuff, and just let it sit in the middle of the room. I can't remember whose room it was, but it was just there. And obviously you smell that smell, and you figure someone in the bathroom may have just left it, but that smell in that room never left because they never figured out where it was coming from.
So in that story, you heard Dre tell me that he couldn't remember whose room he destroyed with his dump. Well, Andy Borman knew the answer to that question.
I feel like I was collateral damage in that one. I was roommates with Ryan Callbeck on this particular road trip, and I don't know what Ryan did to get under Andre Buckner's skin or to deserve some type of payback. All I know is that I was in the hotel room by myself and it stank. And the room stank. And I remember, walking into the bathroom, making sure the toilet was flushed. And no, that's not the toilet. And I remember like, okay, something's going on here. And I remember checking the trash can, but the trash bag was empty. So it's not the trash can. And it stank. And so I remember going and getting Callback wherever he was, whatever room he was in, and saying like, there's something going on. And we couldn't figure out the source of this awful smell. And Andre had taken a crap in one of our trash cans and then put an empty trash bag on top of it so that you didn't know unless you took the bag out what was the source of this stink. And I mean, I was just like his, Andre's retribution got taken out on an innocent bystander, being me, and whatever I was doing, playing on my phone or reading a book or whatever. I mean, it was foul. It was foul.
Did you guys get revenge on him at all, or did you just go, okay, he wins, I'm not gonna fight this guy, he's clearly too crazy?
I can tell you, in that regard, I did not seek retribution because, where could this escalate to? Sounded scary to me.
That makes sense. I understand that.
Yeah. But I mean, there was always something, like we were, we were always towing the line of having a lot of fun and hopefully never getting caught, right? Hopefully never, doing anything that would kind of like, raise the eyebrows or bring the attention of a coach to the table.
And with that smelly story, we wrap up this episode of Return to Glory, but stick around. After a short commercial break, I'll have a preview of what's coming up next. Welcome back to Return to Glory, the story of the 2001 Duke Blue Devil National Champions. On our next episode, Duke reaches the Final Four.
When the brackets came out, there was little to no doubt that we were going to play Maryland in the Final Four.
And they jumped on us. They jumped to a 22-point lead to start the game.
Woo! I remember Shane kind of calling out like, we've been here before. Like, we've been down double digits to these guys before. Like, we're okay.
The Final Four and facing Maryland for a fourth time on the next episode of Return to Glory. Return to Glory is a production of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. It is written, edited, and hosted by me, Jason Evans. None of this would have been possible without the generous participation of every member of the 2001 Duke Blue Devils men's basketball team. Thanks to them, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email us at dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Return to Glory, the story of the 2001 Duke Blue Devil National Champions.